The morning Mae Harlan backed her stock trailer up to the North Bend gate, the frogs stopped first. Not the birds. Not the ducks. The frogs. That was how wet the field was. 19 acres of bottom ground lay past the gate, glazed with gray water and last year's cattail stems, the kind of water that did not ripple unless something living forced it to. Mae set the brake. Behind her, inside the trailer, 41 Indian runner ducks stood almost upright in the straw, thin-necked and watchful, like nervous bowling pins with bills. Cal Rooker slowed his pickup on the county road. He had been farming the higher ground east of Mae's place for 26 years, which meant he believed the road gave him voting rights over whatever foolishness happened beside it. He rolled down his window. He looked at the flooded field. He looked at the trailer. Then he said, "Mae, why are there little white soldiers in your livestock trailer?" Mae lifted the gate with her hip, because the hinge had dragged for 12 years and would not start being polite today. "They're ducks," she said. Cal leaned farther out the window. "Those are the strangest ducks I've ever seen, Indian runners." "For the pond, for the North Bend." Cal looked at the field again. The North Bend was not a pond, technically. It was a 19-acre field on paper, on tax maps, on old farm ledgers. In every other useful sense, it had been a problem with fence posts around it for as long as most people in barren Fort County could remember. From February through June, it held water. In July, it held mosquitoes. In August, it hardened into cracked plates of clay that no planter wanted to cross. By September, people forgot it until the next wet season came and reminded them. Cal said, "Mae, that ground won't hold a cow without stealing her boot." "What are 41 ducks going to do?" Mae unlatched the trailer door. The ducks shifted forward in a single upright wave. "Work," she said. Cal stared at her, then he laughed once, not mean exactly, but in the way men laugh when they think the ground itself has already won the argument. "Work," he repeated. Mae stepped aside. The first duck hopped down into the grass. She was taller than the others, with a black cap over her head and the calm, forward stare of a creature that did not ask permission from weather. Mae had already started calling her Picket. Picket walked straight toward the low field, the other 40 followed. Cal watched the procession past the open gate. 41 upright ducks, one flooded field. One woman standing there with a bucket of feed and an expression that said she had already measured the parts everyone else had only mocked. Cal put his truck in gear. By noon, he had told the feed store that Mae Harlan was sending parade ducks into lost ground. By supper, half the county had heard she was trying to farm a swamp with poultry. And by the end of that week, nobody was calling the North Bend a field anymore. They were calling it Mae's duck mistake. They did not know she had been preparing for it for 3 years. Mae had inherited the Harlan farm from her father, Leon, after a January heart attack took him in the doorway of the equipment shed. The farm was 96 acres of mixed Kentucky ground. The south fields were tobacco ground once, then corn, then soybeans. The ridge pasture held grass even in a dry August. The hay meadow behind the house cut clean when the season was right. But the North Bend had always been different. Leon Harlan used to walk Mae along its edge when she was a girl and talk about it like it was a stubborn animal, not a failed field. He would press his boot at the waterline and watch the mud rise around the sole. Then he would say, "This soil isn't poor, it's out of breath." Mae had been too young the first time to understand. So he explained it again when she was 15, and again when she was 23 and home from community college, helping him fix a planter gear in the rain. Bad ground, he told her, was ground with nothing left to give. The North Bend had plenty to give. Too much, maybe. Too much clay. Too much organic matter trapped underwater. Too many years with no air moving through it. "The soil down there is holding its breath," he said. "Get air through it, and it'll surprise people. He never got the chance. Leon tried trenching in 1991. It helped for one spring. He hired a drainage crew in 1999, and they laid tile across the lowest reach of the bend. For 2 seasons, the water behaved. Then the clay pan underneath the subsoil shifted the flow sideways, like a hand pressing water under glass. The tile carried what it could, the rest rose again. After that, Leon kept records, he drew maps, he measured water depth with notched cedar stakes. He wrote down rainfall totals, frost dates, wheat species, and which parts of the field dried first. But he ran out of money before he ran out of questions. Then, he ran out of years. Mae did not open all his notebooks right away. For the first season after he died, she farmed by necessity. For the second, by anger. For the third, by habit. Only in the winter of 2011, when ice sealed the water troughs and the farmhouse seemed too quiet to avoid, did she carry the old feed sacks of notebooks to the kitchen table and begin reading from the oldest one forward. Leon's handwriting changed across decades. Young and open in the 1970s, tighter in the 1990s, painfully careful near the end, when his hand had started to shake. Mae read all of it. Not because she expected an answer, because reading his records was the closest she could come to asking him questions. In a 1976 notebook, on the back of a page about lime rates, she found a line written sideways in the margin. It said, "Talk to Mr. Voss about drowned bottom ground. His people ran runner ducks before rice in the bootheel. Ducks are little plows where mules can't stand. They eat the green choke, stir the top, open pinholes, leave manure. Rice follows the breath." Mae read that line 3 times, then she put both hands flat on the kitchen table. Rice follows the breath. It sounded like something half practical and half foolish. Which was exactly the kind of thing Leon would write down if he suspected the practical part was bigger than it looked. Mae did not buy ducks that spring. She did not buy rice seed, she started reading. She read university bulletins about wetland soils. She read old county extension reports that used terms nobody at the feed store cared about: clay pan, anaerobic layer, surface sealing, water control. Biological disturbance. She learned that the North Bend was not failing because it had water, it was failing because the water had no organized way to move. The clay pan beneath the field did not sit flat. It sloped and folded under the surface, catching water in pockets and keeping oxygen from moving through the root zone. Tile could drain a ditch. It could not make the soil breathe. Machinery could tear the top layer. It often pressed the wet clay tighter around the damage. But animals working slowly, repeatedly, lightly, over broad areas could change a field differently. Not all animals. Cattle would punch holes too deep and compact the edges. Hogs would destroy the place. Geese would graze the surface and leave the underwater growth alone. But ducks, if managed properly, could move through shallow water and soft clay without treating the field like a barnyard. Runner ducks, especially, foraged constantly. They ate larvae. They worked weeds. They moved in groups. They were light enough not to sink the field and active enough not to leave it alone. They were not magic. That was why Mae trusted the idea. Magic would have been easier. This was slower, more annoying, more measurable. She spent the next 2 years learning enough to risk 1 season. She sourced a short-season rice variety from a small grower who kept old upland and wet-footed southern lines alive for stubborn customers. She ordered 41 Indian runner ducks from a breeder in Missouri who selected for foraging, not ribbons. She priced drainage tile again and set the estimate in a folder labeled, "What Not to Do First." Then she built a water control structure at the Bend's natural outlet. Nothing fancy. Treated lumber. A framed box. Slots for removable boards. A flashboard riser simple enough that a farmer with a drill, a post hole digger, and more stubbornness than sense could build it over 2 weekends. The point was not to drain the field dry. That was what everyone had tried. The point was to decide where the water stood, and when, and how deep. Control was not the same as escape. Mae divided the 19 acres into 5 working cells. Cell 1 was the deepest belly of the bend, Cell 5 was the high edge. The middle cells held water in different moods. She marked each with survey flags, and wrote the first page of a new notebook in black ink. North Bend Biological Rebuild, April 2014. Baseline probe, clay resistance at 14 to 16 inches, water depth at center, 11 inches after 3 dry days. Dominant growth, cattail, sedge mat, duckweed, smartweed. Goal, air. When the ducks arrived, she kept them in a dry-edge pen for 16 days. The county story, meanwhile, grew without needing facts. At the feed store, someone said Mae had bought racing ducks. At the diner, Cal Rooker said they looked like bowling pins with opinions. At the post office, an older man asked if she planned to sell tickets. Mae heard most of it. Barren Fork County was too small for ridicule to travel quietly. She did not correct anyone. Not yet. She spent mornings in the pen. She watched the ducks learn her footsteps. She watched Pickett become the one the flock trusted without ever asking to be followed. Pickett did not rush. Pickett did not flap, she simply chose a direction, and the others decided it had been their idea. On the 17th day, Mae opened the temporary panel into Cell 5. The ducks walked into the wet grass in a narrow, upright line. Pickett first, the others behind her. They found the sedge edge within minutes. They began eating. Then rooting. Then pushing their bills into the soft mat and lifting the green choke out of the water in strips. Mae stood with the notebook against her chest. She had imagined the moment for 2 years. What she had not imagined was how ordinary it would look. No miracle. No sudden clearing. Just 41 ducks doing exactly what ducks do, in the one place everyone else had stopped expecting work to happen. By the second week in Cell 5, the water turned brown. That was the first public proof, unfortunately, and it looked terrible. The ducks stirred the bottom. They clouded the shallows. They tore apart plant mats that had been holding the surface smooth. From the road, it looked as if Mae had taken a flooded field and made it uglier. Cal Rooker stopped by the gate on a Tuesday evening and folded his arms over the top rail. "Mae," he said, "you've made soup." Mae checked the water staff and wrote down the level. "It's supposed to cloud." "It's brown." "Yes." "It was gray before." "Yes." He waited for her to explain further. She did not. He pointed with his chin toward the ducks. "They fixing it, then." "They're opening it." "Looks like they're ruining it." Mae capped her pen. Sometimes those are hard to tell apart in the first month. Cal looked at her for a long moment. Then, he said, "You always talked like your father when you were about to do something expensive." Mae smiled, but only a little. "My father usually wrote it down first." Cal left unconvinced. 3 days later, someone filed a complaint with the county about mosquito water and livestock waste. The person did not sign a name Mae recognized. They did not have to. The county sent Lila Nance from the extension office. Lila arrived in rubber boots with a clipboard, a soil probe, and the tired expression of a woman who had seen enough bad ideas to approach new ones from a safe distance. She watched the ducks work Cell 4. She looked at the flashboard riser. She asked to see the notebook. Mae handed it over. Lila read the baseline measurements, then the water level notes. Then the rotation plan. Then she looked up. You've been measuring every other day. Every morning if it rains. And you identified the plant species yourself. I needed to know what they were eating. Lila glanced toward the water. The ducks were moving through the sedge with their upright, busy seriousness. Pickett was at the front, head down, pulling at a strip of growth with slow determination. Lila said, most people with nuisance complaints don't hand me rotational data. I don't have a nuisance, Mae said. I have a field. Lila pressed her probe at the edge of cell 5, where the ducks had already finished their first pass. The metal rod went down. 14 inches. 15. 16. Then, in one work strip, 17.5 before it hit firm resistance. Lila tried again 5 feet away, 17. She looked back at Mae's baseline. You recorded this at 14 to 15 before the ducks. In that strip, yes. Lila tested a third point, then she stood still. That should not move that quickly. Mae did not say anything. Lila looked at the field again. The muddy water in the active cell, the clearer water behind it, the chewed-back sedge. The simple boards holding the field at a chosen depth. Finally, she said, the complaint says you're increasing mosquito habitat. The ducks eat larvae. I know. They eat quite a lot of larvae. I know that too. Lila closed the notebook. I'm dismissing the complaint. She started toward her truck, then stopped. Call me when you seed, Mae said. You think I should? Lila looked at the half-drowned field everyone had written off, and then at the ducks working through it like a small, ridiculous crew of specialists. I think, she said, I want to be present if this gets stranger. The spring got stranger. The ducks moved cell by cell toward the deepest water. Cell 3 took 2 weeks. Cell 2 took almost 3. Cell 1 took all the patience Mae had. That was the belly of the bend, where the water was deepest and the cattails had built a wall so thick that even the ducks hesitated at the edge. For the first time, Pickett stopped. Not long. Just long enough for Mae to notice. The flock bunched behind her. The field was quiet except for insects and the faint movement of water against stems. Mae stood at the edge with a bucket of grain. She wanted to step in first. She did not. The ducks had to choose the work. Pickett stretched her neck, took one slow step into the flooded cattails, and disappeared chest-deep among the stems. Then another. Then the next duck followed. Then the next. Within 10 minutes, the cattail wall was moving, not falling, not collapsing. Moving from the inside, as if the field had developed a heartbeat. By the end of week 1, cell 1 looked worse than anything Mae had seen yet. The water turned almost black where the ducks opened the old mat. Gas bubbled up from the rot underneath, the smell rolled across the low ground after sunset. Cal Rooker stopped at the gate and did not make a joke. That was how Mae knew it was bad. He said, "You sure about this part?" "No." That answer seemed to trouble him more than confidence would have. Mae looked at the dark water. "I'm sure about the measurements. I'm sure about the biology. I'm sure about the plan." Cal waited. Mae said, "I'm not sure a field that's been holding its breath for 20 years lets go nicely." That night, rain came hard from the west. 3 inches by morning. The flashboard riser held, but the temporary berm between cell 1 and cell 2 slumped at the center. Water pushed through, seed trays floated from the dry edge shed. One survey flag vanished completely. By daylight, the North Bend looked less like a managed system and more like exactly what everyone had called it. Lost ground. Mae stood in rainwater to her knees, resetting boards with numb fingers. The ducks pressed against the pen fence behind her, restless and loud. For the first time since she opened Leon's notebook, she understood why he had written ideas down and still not tried them. A plan on paper did not stink, it did not flood. It did not put your name into other people's mouths. It did not ask whether you had mistaken patience for pride. Mae almost pulled the boards. One hard yank, and she could let the field drain as much as it wanted. Call it a failed experiment. Sell the ducks. Take the lesson quietly. Then she looked at the water staff in cell 1. The level was high, but not wild, the outlet was moving. Slowly. The system was doing what she had built it to do, just under pressure. She waited. That was the hardest work of the whole season, not building, not seeding, waiting while the field looked wrong. By the 4th day after the storm, the water dropped 2 inches. By the 6th, the black cloud in cell 1 thinned to brown. By the 9th, Mae pressed the probe near the cattail wall and felt resistance at 19 inches. She checked twice because she did not trust herself. 19. Then 20 in the strip where Pickett's group had worked hardest. Not solved. Not healed. But changed. Changed was enough to keep going. Mae seeded rice on June 26 before sunrise. She used a canvas bag Leon had carried for clover seed. The strap cut across her shoulder. She walked the shallows in a grid she had marked with bamboo stakes. Casting seed in a steady swing from the hip. The water stood 3 inches over the worked mud. The flashboard boards held. Mist sat low over the bend. Behind her, the ducks complained from their pen because they had been excluded from the most interesting part of their own field. Mae worked until the first light came over the ridge. When the sun hit the water, she saw the field clearly. Not as a swamp. Not as a lost corner, as a place under management. Breathing was not dramatic from the outside. It was 1,000 small exchanges happening where nobody could see. The rice germinated in 13 days. Mae found the first green points on a Monday morning. They were so small, she nearly missed them. Thin blades rising through shallow water, bright green. Almost too bright to belong to the same field. She crouched and touched one with the back of her finger. Come on, then. By the 3rd week of July, the seedlings were 4 inches tall. By August, they stood above the water in a soft green sheet. The county stopped laughing all at once, which is not the same thing as admitting error. People drove slower past the North Bend. Trucks paused at the gate. Questions arrived disguised as comments. Cal Rooker came by in mid-August and stood beside Mae without leaning on the fence. That was new. He looked at cell 1. The rice was knee-high, moving in the damp heat. The water beneath it was not clear, exactly, but it was alive clear. Brown where it should be brown. Open where it had once been sealed. Cal said, "That's rice." Mae said, "It is." In Kentucky. Yes. He took off his cap and put it back on. My granddad would have called that showing off. Mae said, "Your granddad grew sorghum on a hillside most people would have abandoned." Cal nodded slowly. He would have called that farming. They stood there in the silence that comes after a joke fails and something truer is allowed to stand in its place. Cal said, "I told people this wouldn't work. I heard. I said it with some confidence. I heard that too." He looked at the ducks in cell 3. Where they were making a second pass through regrowth. Pickett led them along the waterline, unhurried and absolute. Cal said, "How'd you know?" Mae said, "I didn't know. He looked over. My father left me a sentence. I spent 3 years trying to find out whether the sentence had bones. Cal looked at the rice again. And did it? Mae said, it had feet. Lila Nance returned at the end of August. This time she brought 2 empty sample bags, a camera, and no complaint form. She walked the bend for 3 hours. She took probe readings at 15 marked points. She compared them to Mae's notebook. The deepest worked area in cell 1 now showed resistance at 21 inches. Cell 5 had reached 22 in places after its second duck pass. The water level after rain dropped faster than it had in April. The cattail regrowth in work cells was less than half the original density. The rice was heading. Lila stood in cell 1 with the plants brushing her jacket and said, "You understand this is not in our county guidance." Mae said, "I noticed. This is not how we tell people to handle failed bottom ground." "I noticed that too." Lila did not smile. She was looking at the rice heads. "Not ripe yet. But real." "You did not fix the field," she said. "No. You changed the process inside the field." Mae looked at the water moving slowly between the stalks. "That was the idea." Lila tapped her soil probe against her boot. "I want to write this up after harvest." Mae turned toward her. "Not as a recommendation yet," Lila said. "As a field note. A documented case. Measurements, cost, rotation, water control, cultivar, duck breed, the storm failure, all of it." "The storm failure." "Especially that. People trust a system more when they know where it nearly broke." Mae looked across the bend. 19 acres that have been a joke in April. A green field in August. A thing not fixed, but answering. "Write it up," she said. The rice came ready in late September, not evenly like a perfect commercial field, not heavy enough to impress Arkansas, but heavy enough to bend the heads, heavy enough to harvest, heavy enough that no one could call the North Bend empty without lying. Cal brought a flatbed and an old pull-behind binder that had belonged to his uncle. He did not ask whether Mae needed help, he simply arrived before daylight and backed into position. Mae opened the duck pen and moved the flock to cell 5. Away from the harvest. Pickett objected once, sharply, then accepted the insult with dignity. For 2 days, Mae and Cal cut, hauled, bundled, and loaded rice from ground that had not produced a crop in 20 years. At the end of the second day, Cal stood beside the flatbed and ran a handful of grain through his fingers. He said, "First year ground." Mae nodded. "Storm year." She nodded again. "Duck year." Mae looked at him. Cal said, "That one's going to stick." The yield was modest. But the grain was full. The heads were clean. The wet spots that should have failed had produced enough to prove the system was not a story Mae had told herself. Lila's write-up later put the capital cost in plain numbers. 41 working ducks. A home-built flashboard riser. 5-cell rotation. Baseline clay resistance at 14 to 16 inches. Postseason readings up to 22. Cattail density reduced by more than half in worked areas. A first harvest from 19 acres previously marked unsuitable for row crop recovery without major drainage expense. The numbers mattered. Mae kept them because Leon would have kept them, but numbers were not what made her sit down on the tailgate after the last bundle was loaded and cover her face with both hands. It was the sound. Water moving. Not standing, not trapped, moving under the cut stems in small lines she could hear because the field was quiet again. Cal heard it too. He did not say anything for a while, Then he said, "Your father would have enjoyed being unbearable about this." Mae laughed once into her hands. It broke something open in her chest. "He'd have brought 3 notebooks," she said. "And made us all read them. He would have said the field was trying to tell us." Cal looked at the cut rice, the shallow water, the ducks gathered upright on the far edge like a committee waiting for its meeting to resume. "What was it telling you?" Mae wiped her eyes with the heel of her palm. "That it wasn't dead." The county agricultural meeting happened in October in the courthouse annex. 46 people came, which was more than usual because word had gotten around that Lila Nance was going to put Mae's duck year on the projector. Mae sat in the back. She would have preferred not to sit anywhere. Lila presented the case with the ruthless calm of a person who trusts measurements more than applause. She showed April photographs first. Gray water, cattails. Duckweed, the North Bend looking exactly like everyone remembered it. Then she showed the rotation map, the flashboard riser, the probe chart, the storm notes, then the September photograph. 19 acres of harvested rice stubble under controlled water in a county that had filed the field away under impossible. The room went quiet, not respectful, not yet, just caught. Lila said, this was not an accidental improvement. It was a managed biological disturbance system paired with shallow water control and short-season rice. A man in the second row said, "Whose place?" Lila said, "Mae Harlan's North Bend." The room shifted. Cal Rooker sat 3 rows ahead of Mae. He did not turn around. Lila continued. Total cash cost was lower than a single new tile run on comparable acreage. Labor cost was high. Observation demand was high. This is not a set-it-and-forget-it method. She clicked to the next slide. A photograph of Pickett stood on the screen, upright, mud on her breast, eyes forward. Someone near the front chuckled. Lila did not. She said, the ducks were not decoration, they were the tool. That line ended the laughter. After the meeting, 3 farmers asked Mae about the riser. 2 asked about seed. 1 asked where to buy runner ducks that did not mind working. Cal waited until the room emptied. Then he came to the back where Mae was folding her coat over her arm. He said, I owe you a cleaner apology than the one I gave at the fence. You already helped harvest. That was easier. Mae waited. Cal looked toward the blank projector screen. I made your work smaller because I didn't understand it. Mae held his gaze. Outside, courthouse lights reflected on wet pavement. Finally, she said. Most people do that when the work looks strange. That doesn't make it right. No. He nodded, I'm sorry. Mae said, then I'll take it. The second spring, the North Bend did not look healed. It looked busy. That was better. The water spread where Mae wanted it, and dropped faster after rain. The cattails returned, but thinner. The sedge came back in patches, not mats. The ducks, now 48, after Mae kept 7 young birds from late winter, rotated through the cells with the confidence of experienced workers. Pickett was older. Still first. Still watched by the others. Lila came with a wetland agriculture specialist from the state office. He pressed his probe into cell 1 at the marked center point. 18 inches. 20. 22. 24. He stopped at 25 and looked at the rod as if it had answered in a language he had not expected. Mae said, that spot was 15 last April. He tested again. 24.5. He stood. The clay pan is not gone. No. But the field is routing water through it differently. Yes. He looked toward the ducks. Pickett was working the waterline, with 6 younger birds shadowing her movements. The specialist said, How long do you plan to keep doing this? Mae looked at the bend. The question felt wrong. Not rude. Just shaped wrong, as if the field were a repair ticket that would someday be stamped complete. I don't think about finishing, she said. I think about keeping it breathing. By the second harvest, the rice stood thicker. Cal's flatbed came again. This time he brought his nephew, who did not remember the North Bend as anything except the strange place where ducks made rice. That was how fast a story could change once results had somewhere to stand. A week before harvest, a girl from the road stopped at the fence with her bicycle in the ditch. She was 9, maybe 10. She watched the ducks for a long time before asking, "Why do they walk like that?" Mae rested her arms on the gate. "Because they're runner ducks." "Why do they work?" Mae looked at the flock, picket at the front, the younger birds behind her. The water moving through open paths nobody could see from the road. "They don't know they're working," Mae said. "They eat what chokes the field. They stir what got sealed. They leave behind what the soil can use. Their feet make little openings where water and air can move." The girl considered that. "My dad said nobody grew rice here." Mae smiled. He was almost right. The girl looked up. "What's the difference?" "Nobody had," Mae said. "That is not the same as nobody could." The girl looked back at the field, at the rice heads bending, at the ducks moving through the shallows, at 19 acres of bottom ground that had once been called a mistake, then a swamp, then a joke, then a case study, and now simply part of the farm again. She said, "It looks alive." Mae followed her gaze. The morning light lay on the water in broken pieces. The rice moved in the air. The ducks worked without drama. The field that had held its breath for 20 years was breathing in small, ordinary ways. Under roots. Under water. Under 48 webbed feet, Leon had been right. The ground had never been dead. It had only been waiting for someone patient enough to hear where the breath was caught.